Hey, Two-Siders here. Today I wanted to make a video where it's kind of like a brainstorming video, something more creative, where I tell you about these unique class race combinations that I thought about. And I actually thought about these for a couple of years now, but I wanted to sort of lay down my mental thoughts into a video. I don't have to think about these anymore. And the way I thought about this video is I would go over each race, one race from, one faction and then the other faction. I would give you one unique combination, maybe talk about a little bit about the professions and a little bit maybe RP if you are into that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna judge. So yeah, without further ado, let's start. And I'm actually gonna start with Trolls, because this idea has been in my head for a very long time. Trolls still gonna have Berserk in TBC Classic. Berserk is an activated ability. It costs a little bit of like 5 rage, 10 energy or some mana to activate, and it increases your attack speed or spellcasting speed. If you have max health, it increases by 10%, but if you have lower health, then it can go up to 30%. I'm not exactly sure how it works, how much health you need to be missing. I would actually appreciate if someone could comment if you're missing like 30% health, you are at 70% max health, does that mean you already have the max 30% increase, or do you have to go down to like 30% or something like that? I don't know. But anyways, the cool combination that I thought about is Troll Warrior with Alchemy. And the reason why I thought about Troll Warrior is because you can see, like in Classic, everybody rolls an Orc Warrior. Or like, whatever, like 20%, 15% of the people maybe roll a Tauren Warrior because of the increased stamina, so they roll a Tauren Warrior tank. A lot of the tanks are also just Orc Warriors, and then some people roll an Undead Warrior because everybody and their mothers rolls either an Undead or a human. And what you never ever see in the game is Troll Warriors. And this sort of idea of a Troll Warrior tank specifically came from, it was at least 10-15 years ago when I was first playing on a TBC server, and I just saw this guy. We were raiding Zuleman, and this like very pro guy playing Troll Warrior. It was such a weird fucking combination. You just see this like lanky ass dude in whatever it was, like kind of like Vengeful Gladiator, but the PvE set. And that was really intimidating to see a Troll Warrior like that. I've never seen a lanky ass dude in plate armor. I thought it was really cool. And my idea is that essentially when you are leveling, you always pick blacksmithing or something like that, as a warrior. That's like the go-to pick. But you could pick something like an alchemy and herbalism combo, where you go down, you're missing a large chunk of your health, you activate Berserk, and you can actually heal yourself back up with potions, healing potions that you can craft for, pretty cheap if you have the profession and the gathering profession yourself. You don't have to buy them off the auction house. Another little cool little thing, it's not that much, not very much used. I heard some troll tanks use, or some people roll troll tanks, I guess because of the regeneration increased. What this means is that if you don't know, your health doesn't regenerate if you are in combat. And your mana only regenerates when you're not casting for a couple of seconds. Well, with trolls, 10% of your health regeneration is still activated in combat. This doesn't really work on every private server. Like, I played on some servers where this wasn't actually on, or like they didn't, I don't know, it was broken. But in TBC Classic and in Classic WoW, this definitely works. It's kind of cool for longer fights, but it's still much less of a meta than doing something like Tauren Warrior. I think 5% stamina increase. But whatever. This video, I want to throw out the meta completely out the window. I want to throw the meta into the toilet and then flush the toilet, because I don't care about what everybody else is doing. I want to do my own thing. So yeah, Troll Warrior with Alchemy is my idea. It's kind of cool. And Zulaman is gonna come out in TBC. It's gonna be in TBC Classic. One of the coolest. I love trolls so much. Troll lore is the best in the game, I think. With all the different empires, it's just something cool. When it comes to the Alliance, another idea, it's a really niche idea, where, if you notice, poor little gnomes can only be warriors, rogues, mages, and warlocks. Now, what do they have in common? They cannot resurrect people. You can roll something like an engineering gnome, where there is an item, and there's actually I think maybe like a trinket of it as well in TBC, called the Goblin Jumper Cables, and then there's the Goblin Jumper Cables XL. And what the jumper cables do is, it's kind of like a defibrillator in real life. They shock people back to life, and there's a chance for it to miss. Now, you can pick up engineering, and if you're in a dungeon, battleground, whatever, as a gnome, you can actually resurrect people. Not every time, but sometimes. And again, very, very niche, but it's still interesting nonetheless. To actually create Goblin Jumper Cables and to use the item, you need to have an engineering skill of 165, which means you need to learn Expert Engineering, which can only be done at level 20. You need to be level 20 to learn Expert profession skills. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, with the gnomes, you can actually have 150 engineering at level 19 if you have a twink or something like that, and you're still able to create and use the Goblin Jumper Cables. So, which means, as a gnome, you are the only race in the entire game that can, resurrect people with the jumper cables at level 19. Very, very niche, but it's still cool to think about nonetheless. Let's go back to Horde. I was planning on doing something like an Orc Warlock in TBC, because everybody when it comes to Warlocks, I want to play Warlock first of all because leveling as Affliction is very, very cool in my opinion, because it's micromanaging. It's like, if you love doing something like a value build, or you play some online card games where you have engines, they are called, that generate value over time. Well, Warlocks have dots that have damage over time effects, so they don't cost as much mana as just straight up spell. They take time to take their full damage effect, but it's cool. And if you play a Warlock, even whilst leveling properly, you actually never have to eat and drink, which is amazing. And you can, after level 40, you can do something like a Draenei Warlock, whatever. We could have a whole video on Warlocks for that matter. But the reason why I was thinking of Orc Warlock is because everybody rolls an Undead Warlock or a Blood Elf Warlock. You can't be a Troll Warlock yet. Blood Elves, obviously, Undeads, PvP, and it's cool and whatnot. Well, Orc Warlocks are cool because, first of all, the enrage ability of Orcs, it only works for attack power in Classic, but in TBC they changed it so that Warlocks actually get spell power increase, which is really nice. Please let me know in the comments. I have zero fucking idea how it works for Shamans, but I'm pretty sure the way it works is if you have higher spell power, it gives you spell power. If you have higher attack power, enhancement, then you get increased attack power. Furthermore, even if you are rolling something like an Affliction, my plan is to do Affliction first, then go to something like a Fire Destruction with more crit, more after I get some gear. I never want to do Shadow Bolt spec. It's so fucking boring. I don't care if I do less damage. I don't give a fuck. I just want to enjoy the game I'm playing. However, it might be really interesting to try out something like Demonology, where your pets deal, more damage and your spells deal less damage in layman terms. However, even if you are not doing something like Demonology spec, damage done by Warlock and Hunter pets is increased by 5%. 5% is literally like a talent, almost. It's really cool. And on top of that, you have, the 15% resistant to stun effects. I think this was 25% maybe in vanilla. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it's still nice, 15%. Orc Warlock. Damn. on Alliance side, let's talk about Night Elves. I think Night Elf is... If you ask your friends that never played MMORPGs ever in their lives, and you told them, okay, let's play Alliance, they would probably pick something like a Night Elf to play, because they're just really cool looking, right? Compared to, you know, human, shorter human. Night Elves are really cool, but nobody really plays Night Elves besides obviously the Druid on the Alliance side. When it comes to Night Elves Rogue, and this is my next not recommendation, but, you know, cool little combination of race and class. Night Elf Rogue. I actually leveled a Night Elf Rogue in Classic Vanilla, and everybody either goes human because of the increased expertise with swords, or gnome because of the escape artist. You know, you can shake off immobilizes as a gnome rogue. Night Elf Rogue is just really cool, I think. I love Night Elves, and I love, first of all, Teldrassil, really cool. When I started playing back in like the demo, like 15 years ago, fucking hell. Teldrassil is really cool. Dark, foresty area, like the background here. Well, Night Elves have the Shadow Meld ability. One of the coolest things you can do, I guess, is roll a Night Elf Warrior and then charge people from stealth in Battlegrounds. Well, the way it works with the Druids in cat form and Rogues is Shadow Meld. You obviously don't use Shadow Meld the ability, but it gives you a passive where if you are in stealth, in cat form or Rogue, you know, stealth, Shadow Meld actually increases your stealth level by like 1 or 2, which means it's very similar to that talent on the subtlety tree that increases your stealth level. I'm not sure by how many, I think it's like 1 or 2 only, but it's kind of cool. It's a cool little thing that the developers thought of back in the day, that this does actually give you at least a passive if you are a cat or a rogue. Another one that I would point out, everybody hates Wisp form because it doesn't do anything. Well, especially in vanilla, not so much in TBC. If you are a new player, especially, you know, you ask your friends to come play with you, they never played WoW or anything like that, they keep dying or you keep dying. Well, Wisp form actually means that you spend less time dead because you are faster as a ghost. It's good to dungeon, go back to the dungeon with. It's just something cool that people often overlook. It's just a cool little RPG ability. I love Wisp form. Back to the Horde. Taurens. Now, for this video I actually looked up a couple of things about professions. Herbalism, skinning, a little bit about mining, but mining doesn't really change that much. And if you haven't tried this out, again, this is a tip for obviously Classic as well. If you are a Tauren Druid or, you know, Night Elf Druid, if you are in travel form, cat form or bear form, you can actually skin animals in Druid forms. Someone please try it. I don't know if you can skin whilst you are in the water form, the walrus form. It would be really funny to see if you can. It actually makes sense that you can skin as a cat, as a cheetah, you know, travel form or bear, because you have the claws, right? I guess if you don't have a skinning dagger, then what the fuck. But it's a neat little ability that you can do that I would just roll a druid just for that you can skin. I misremembered because I thought that you could gather herbs in you know, druid form, but you cannot actually do that, even though Taurens actually have the herbalism skill increased. Back here, I know in later expansions they also increase herbalism skill or gathering speed. This is just plus 15. So this is one of the more useful profession skill increases, simply because you get plus 15 to your herbalism, you level up your Tauren to level 5 or 6, you go to Bloodhoof Village, you learn herbalism, and then you can straight up gather life root. Normally you would need to gather at least 15 things to get your herbalism to 15, and then you can gather life root because it has a requirement of 15 herb, but not with Tauren. So yeah, you can just fuck around with that, I guess, in the starter area of Mulgore. But yeah, however, when it comes to herbalism as well for anybody. Outland is really cool because Outland offers a couple of obviously new herbs together, and there's like 5 or 6 at least, and when you gather an herb in Outland, they will give you an effect. So some herb, it's similar to the Morning Glory, something like that, Dreaming Glory, Morning Glory, I can't remember what it's called in Classic, but when you gather an herb in Outland, it does something. Some herbs give you a random stat increase of 50 for 10 minutes. Another one restores your mana. Again, like a poison weed, it gives you a poison for 10 seconds, which is pretty bad, but it's really fun. I love these little RPG things. So, Herbalism is really cool. Alchemy, I love Alchemy because you can get buffs when you are leveling. It's really cheap to make those potions if you gather them. It's really cool. You can create health potions if you're a new player. You fuck up, you can just drink a potion and not die. Alchemy and Herbalism, one of my favorites. I love skinning because it's just, again, similarly to playing an Affliction Warlock whilst leveling, you can skin anything. Like if you're a new player on a new server, you can get some of your early money by just skinning random shit that people killed. If you go to the Barrens, there's skins everywhere, right? With a druid, it's even better because you can skin in a form. So that's my little tip. It's obviously really, really obvious, but if you haven't tried it, I recommend trying a druid with skinning. Going back to the Alliance, we spent a little bit of time talking about professions. Dwarves, everybody and their mothers roll a dwarf priest in vanilla, because if you didn't know, every priest, every race that has a priest has 2 separate abilities that only that race can perform. Some of them are shared, like Desperate Prayer, I think is shared between humans and some either Night Elves or Dwarves. Dwarves get Fear Ward, and the way Fear Ward works, it's a buff that you can place on people or yourself, and it eats a fear. It's really good, for some dungeons, like even Wailing Caverns, where they fear you into other mobs. It's just good from the very beginning, kind of like the undead ratio. And just so you know, Fear Ward, I'm not sure about the other spells, it might just be Fear Ward actually. Fear Ward is going to be shared, so not only Dwarves and Draenei actually get them from the very beginning, but other races like Trolls, Blood Elves, Undead, and humans also get Fear Ward in TBC, just to even out the playing field. When it comes to Paladins, we'll talk about that later, but it might not be that good. So when it comes to Dwarf, my unique combination is actually doing something like a Dwarf priest or rogue. Rogue, have skinning on your rogue, and then have something like tailoring on your priest, and then it's really, really shit, but I love treasure finding. Treasure finding is a tracking ability similarly to, track ores as miner, track herbs as, if you have herbalism, or tracking in general as hunter. Now the problem is you can only have one tracking available at any one time. They even added in TBC, they added like track flight master, track post box or whatever, but out in the wilds you can use treasure finding as a new character on a new server to get some nice greens maybe, or get some extra loot. It's kind of a cool ability. And the reason why I said pick skinning as rogue is because skinning doesn't have a tracking ability and tailoring doesn't have a tracking ability, so try something like that. Just so you know, in TBC, Stoneform also gets buffed a little bit because it only took away poisons. I already spoiled the joke. So Stoneform, after a couple of patches, will also remove blind. Really, really good ability for PvP, but whatever. We're not exactly here to talk about the meta, guys. So, whatever. Yeah, treasure finding. I love it. It's really bad, but really fun. Going back to the Horde, again, everybody plays Undead, even though for PvE they are, according to a lot of people, objectively the worst race to pick. You will see Undead Warrior, Rogue, Priest, Warlock and Mage, it doesn't really matter. Something to note is that you can play something like an Undead, Warlock to regain some health if you are life tapping with the consumed corpses. Underwater breathing increased. This is actually increased by 300%. It's useful for some quests, like in Stranglethorn Vein you have the Elite Murloc quest where you have to get the tablet and kill some Murlocs. Constantly underwater, it's really fucking annoying. You have to buy basically a breathing potion and swim speed potion for that quest alone. And also in Desolate there are some underwater quests. There's underwater quests here and there. But with Undead, you actually have 3 times as much breath. Now, just for this, I wouldn't roll something like an Undead Warlock, simply because, in case you didn't know, after a while Warlocks get an ability which just gives you underwater breathing for 10 minutes. So this makes this ratio pretty much useless. And nonetheless, it's kind of cool to roll something like an Undead Warrior, similarly to my Troll Warrior tip or idea, because there's not many of them. And consuming corpses is another neat little thing you can do as a Warlock to micromanage literally everything in your entire life. So yeah, obviously for PvP or PvE, people will just play on that because they are the humans of the Horde. Well, not anymore, but we'll talk about that. When it comes to humans, literally I just set a Deadmines run as a Gnome Warlock where everybody else was a human, and people just play human because they are just humans. It's easy to, I guess, identify with them in real life, but I don't know, I like the more creative side of WoW. So for humans, because everybody rolls, all of these classes as humans, I'm not gonna give you a combination. I'm just going to say that first of all, staff detection, amazing in arenas. You can see enemy rogues and druids before they can see you. Spirit is nice. And then bonus reputation gains. This actually increases your reputation gains by 10%. And I actually used this in Mists of Pandaria when I farmed Exalted on every single faction in Pandaria. But even in TBC, it's very, very useful to have an increased reputation gain of 10. Because you want to get, honored, revered, and exalted with a lot of the factions in TBC for items, recipes. I don't know much about attunements, but I guess for that as well. I'll learn about that later. But that bonus reputation gain is something really cool. It's a little bit min-maxy. I know it's unlike this video, but I guess that's a weird little bonus if you want to explain why you rolled human and not just because you're just like everybody else, I guess. And with that, we finished the classic races. Let's talk about the TBC new races, the Blood Elves and the Draenei. Now, Blood Elves are the humans of the Horde, even more than the Undeads were in Classic, because everybody rolls Blood Elves because of the way they look. And my tip for Blood Elf, it couldn't be any other tip, because quite literally, if you want to play a Horde Paladin, you have to go Blood Elf, because no other race has Paladin at this point in time. No Holy Cows at this point. And there's a major controversy when it comes to Paladins in TBC, because I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Seal of Vengeance or something like that. No. I think Seal of Vengeance is Alliance, and then Blood Elves get something like that. Anyways, there is an ability similarly to, I guess, shamans or priests, where Horde gets a much better ability compared to Alliance. The ability increases your damage done, but you also get damaged a little bit, and it's a fact that it's just much better than the Alliance version, which puts a dot on the enemy. And I really hope, I see it as a 50-50, either. I don't think Blizzard will do it because, no changes, but they should really add or share the Horde Paladin ability with the Alliance, and then in turn share the Alliance ability with the Horde, because it's just that good, you know. A lot of people actually went from playing an alliance altogether to playing Horde, and guilds re-rolled just so they could play a Blood Elf Paladin instead of an alliance Paladin. And I might try something like this. I might actually play a Blood Elf Paladin if my friends decide to play this game for the first time, because I want to tank, and I don't want to tank as a warrior. It's just really, you know, everybody was warrior tank. I already tanked as a druid. I might do something like a Blood Elf Paladin, you know, protection Paladin, where you do actually get a taunt in TBC as a Paladin, but it's not as good, I think, as a warrior taunt. It's not a straight up taunt. Basically, if one of your, you know, party members or whatever raid members gets attacked, they pull aggro. You can activate this ability and then you pull the aggro off of them to yourself. So it's kind of like a backwards taunt in a way. However, paladins get consecration, one of the earliest and best like AoE abilities a tank can have. Because at this point there weren't that many AoE abilities for tanks. So yeah, consecration is really cool. Yeah. Also, a lot of people just play Blood Elf because you silence people in PvP. You silence in dungeons and raids. It's really useful for there as well, but it also regens some mana. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if it regens. I think it also regens energy and a little bit of. I almost said rage. Blood Elves cannot be warriors at this point. I think it also restores some energy. And the final race, Draenei. This is again really cool. I'm not sure why Draenei can be warriors and Blood Elves can't be. I think it would be more appropriate if something like, you know, Draenei cannot be warriors, because every Draenei literally has a connection to the Naru and the light. I don't think Draenei. I think, you know, maybe Blood Elves. But you know, they already had the max like 6 classes, I guess they were going for. So yeah. It's really cool to play a Draenei warrior because not many people actually play a Draenei warrior, and not sure why gnomes got a warrior simply because there can't be a race that only has 3 classes. And the Jewelcrafting, I want to talk a little bit about Jewelcrafting because I find that profession really fun as well. The way Jewelcrafting works is you still have to have mining to mine ores, and you still smelt some of the ores, but you also essentially destroy 5 ores and then you get a gem out of them with 100% chance of, you know, getting at least 1 gem. So you know, sacrifice something like, you know, 5 copper ores and you get like malachite or whatever, tiger's eye, and from the combination of smelted stuff and gems you create rings and trinkets, and then later on medallions as well. And it's actually really, it goes a long way, because even though these rings only give you like, you know, 1 or 2 agility, 1 or 2 strength or whatever, you get them really early, and at that point it's a little like boost to your leveling at low level. Even though there are some quests, some dungeon quests and some end chain quest rewards offer you rings and then later on trinkets, Jewelcrafting is just nice to have. It's nice to have a Jewelcrafter friend, someone in the guild, or if you have none of these things, then make sure you have a lookout for the auction house if you're leveling a new character. Because if you buy, you know, a ring at level 5 that you use until like level 30, that already served its fucking purpose. It's great. I just love Jewelcrafting. But anyways, back to the point. Draenei, I think, just really cool. Like, Draenei Warrior and Draenei Mages are not very much rolled, but obviously, similarly to the Paladin thing on the Horde side, if you want to roll an Alliance Shaman, then you have to go Draenei, because no other class has this. And what you also need to know about, you get a heal. Every Draenei has a heal that you can put on allies and yourself. It's like a heal over time. But also, party members' chance to hit with melee and spells increased. This is wrong, because technically the way it works is if you're a caster, like a mage Draenei, you give 1% spell hit to your party. And if you are something like a warrior or paladin, you get 1% you know, melee hit. or ranged hit, I guess. And a lot of min-maxer guilds have, I think, 1 Draenei in every party in a raid to increase hit by 1%, and then they don't have to have as much spell hit or melee hit, and then they put something else, so they min-max. But nonetheless, it's a cool ability. It's something to look at whilst you're leveling and you have like 0 buffs. You always have the Draenei buff, right? It's kind of cool. So yeah, Draenei starter, Blood Elf starter, they are really cool. And again, if you want to go something unique, roll something like a Draenei warrior or a Draenei mage. So yeah, this concludes this video. Apparently TBC Classic is coming out on May the 4th. I hope you'll have as much fun as I will. I hope I'll have fun, because I don't really know how I'm going to be playing or what I'm going to be playing, obviously, as you can tell. But I wanted to clear up some of these ideas in my head. I wanted to put them in a video format so I don't have to fucking think about this anymore. And I hope you found this kind of fun, kind of useful. And I hope to see you in Outland. So, bye-bye.